Anton loves to ride black people about having a victim mindset. He often talk about accountability, self-ownership, and stop complaining. But hear me, the moment something doesn't go right for him, suddenly it's a problem. It's a problem. And then he turn around and talk about something that's unfair, something that should be off limit. So the question that need to be answered, and especially in relation to Anton Daniels, is how do you preach the no victim mentality and then turn around and put the victim jersey on when something don't go your way or when pressure hit? And this is what we're going to be dealing with in this video. So fair use, fair use, fair use.
Um, we're in the building. We're in the building. So I'm gonna start this off going ahead and addressing what it is that a lot of y'all came to see. And then for the rest of us, we're gonna go ahead and kick it for the Millionaire Morning Show, and we're gonna do our normal everyday thing. All right, let me read some of these super chats, and then we'll get it popping. Top Flight says, "Moaning, AD, I sent you an email. You need to check it out. Stay dangerous." What up to Top Flight 3? I appreciate you. Eric Harris says, "AD, I did come here for the drama. However, you decide to handle your business, I support it. Children are off limits." Okay, well, I guess we can go ahead and get to it. I knew you wanted to know. So there's some people that are watching this right now that I remember used to being here all the time, and there was heavy supporters. And now I see that some of them are a little bit different. Like, for example, Vatos Bulldog says, "Stop the cap like you didn't wake up ready to respond." I'm going to speak to that. Vatos Bulldogs used to be a very, very heavy supporter of the show. But what I've realized is people will switch and change depending on how messy that they want you to be. So I'm going
to... Listen, content creators, if you don't know these people in reality, when I'm talking about reality, come off of social media and really deal with these people. If you don't know these people in reality, I will say that you have to be very delusional to think that some supporters would not switch up on you. People in the comments, people that support your channel, they have a right to switch up on you if they want to, because they really don't have no stock in what you got going on. They just dare to listen. And if they agree with you, they agree with you. They don't agree with you, then so be it. So to be emotional, to be getting all in a frenzy over somebody no longer supporting you in the way that you think that they should be supporting you is very weak and very weak. And I'm not saying that he don't know this guy, Vatos Bulldog, personally, but at the same time, it's very weak to be addressing supporters of your channel in this type of magnitude, okay? People have a right to rock with you through your content, and they have a right to not rock with you. It's okay. People can be on your team for a month, all in your comments, talk about, yeah, go, 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 go. And then the next month they can switch up. It's okay. This is what you're supposed to expect as a content creator. Okay, so this is very weak. And it already seemed like he's taking on the victim role.
Address this like this, because the thing that I tell people all the time is you never, ever, 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 yeah, facts, fair weather friends. We know what it is. We know what it is. We've even revived some people's platforms with hate. But in a month, those same platforms are going to have to figure out what else to talk about once this whole thing dies down. All right, but let me get to exactly.
Man, this dude See, you have to be on a very high level spiritually to be able to see past BS. And this guy, he often take jabs at people indirectly. And a lot of you guys, you don't get it, okay? And if you're a fan of him, so be it. It don't matter, okay? But to say that we revive other people pages with hate, saying that, you shouldn't be speaking out against me because he want to control everything that's going on with this situation. And people he may been on air with or may did a podcast with or was on a panel with, he think that they supposed to support him all the way 100%, even though they disagree with him. And again, to go back to what I just said, when it comes to content creators and whatnot, these people are not your families. They are not your road dogs. They are not your best friends. So to expect people to be one way all the time in the social media world, again, that's crazy. That's delusional. But to say that you revive other people's page with hate, other words, trying to interject that these people is hating on him because they disagree with him is weak. That's a victim mindset, okay? The same mindset that you tell so-called black people not to have, yet you're taking this. And people who's able to see through the BS understand that he's taking this approach to get people to feel sorry for him. And he's taking this approach to play on the strings of people emotional intelligence, okay?
Exactly what it is that y'all want to talk about. So, of course, I'm familiar, and of course, people were sending it to me yesterday and all of that, right? They were sending me everything about everything that was being said about my daughter and my wife and all of that stuff, right? And so the thing that I try to tell people on a regular basis is this: never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, let your emotions make you make illogical decisions. We are a thinking people now. We are evolving. We are no longer subjecting ourselves to the same rules as the streets, as the culture, as the thing that we criticize the most. So I'm gonna just
Now here it is. He's playing on people intelligence. He's telling people, and hear me out, hear me out. He's telling y'all you're no longer supposed to be making decisions based off of emotions. He's telling y'all, and this how he do, and this why I say you got to be careful of dealing with wizards. If you don't understand how a wizard operate, you can easily be manipulated and deceived. Now watch this, because this guy play on words. He's telling you you're no longer supposed to be making decisions based off of emotions, and you don't supposed to be making decisions off of your feelings. You're supposed to be thinking. But when you go back to the interaction between him and Corey Holcomb on the 5150 show, needless to say, he made some decisions. He made some reactions based off of his emotions. And I know a lot of you guys gonna come in where he have a right to stand up for himself. He have a right to stand up for himself. Yes, you do. But this is the kicker. Emphatically, he let it be known, I am a Christian. I am a Christian. Okay? And what Christianity push, right? Especially in the so-called black neighborhood, so-called black community, what Christianity push is you don't react with violence. This is one of the reasons why Martin Luther King was being pushed by the powers to be in our society versus someone like Malcolm X. Because Malcolm X was all about standing up for yourself, okay? But Martin Luther King was about nonviolence. This is what Christianity pushed. This is what Christianity preaches. And so when he was on the show saying, I am a Christian first, I want y'all guys to remember this, and then reacted, talk about let's go outside, let's shoot a fair one. That means he's making a decision based off of his emotions instead of making a decision based off of thinking, based off of his theological approach, based off of his ideology in relation to Christianity. So if you're saying you're a Christian and Christian push and preach nonviolence, And for you to say, let's go outside, let's do this, that means you made a decision based off of your emotions instead of based off of your belief. So this guy, he play on words, and he have a lot of people that's tricked, duped, and delusional that caters to his whimsicality. Why? Because they can't see past the smoke. They can't see past the smoke. All right? But let's get some more of this.
Say this, I'm not gonna make it a long thing. I'm gonna be very, very clear, and we're gonna move on. I'm not gonna address it again. All right. So here's the thing. Since the beginning of time, I've always, my number one thing in life, above all, when I made the decision that I wanted to have a kid, and I said that I was only going to have one kid because I wanted to make sure that I poured every single resource that I could into the kid, right? And that is the purest thing that we can do, is that we can take care of our children. Our children are the ones that are our future. Now, I'll give you a little bit of insight for those of you that may not be familiar with my daughter.
Here again, this is how he playing on your emotions. And I don't like to go this route because this page is really about reaction to the why of life. And I got a whole different channel that's dedicated to the scriptures, but I must remind you, I am an advocate for the scriptures. Now watch this. He's saying that the most purest thing that you can do is raise your kids. And that's somewhat true. It's a pure thing to do it, but it's not the purest thing to do. When you read James chapter 1, it talks about pure religion. Okay? The purest thing that you can have in this life is your relationship with the Most High. That's the most purest thing that you can do. That's the most purest effort and energy that you can dive into. And matter of fact, the Most High comes before your wife, it comes before your children, and it comes before your purpose. Okay? So that's why I say, man, you have to pay attention to things that coming out of people's mouth. And when they have an objective at hand, they will say certain things, again, to play on the emotional strings of your heart, to captivate you with good words and fair speeches, okay? Remember the scripture talk about that in Romans, I think it's Romans chapter 16, say with good words and fair speeches, people will use that to deceive the simple, okay? And so this is what this guy do.
USA team, at different points throughout the year, she's usually ranked about number 2 or number 3 in the country. Junior Olympian, probably has close to over 325 medals, of which 200 and maybe 80 of them are gold. Has traveled across the world representing our country, and is probably the sweetest soul that I personally know. Now, of course, we can be a little bit biased because all of our kids are the sweetest things to us. Those of us that are in our kids' lives and that are participating in our children's lives. But a very, very accomplished minor child, meaning that she's still a child. And one of the things that I tell my daughter every single day is that I want you to stay in a child's place. I never want you to grow up too fast. I never want you to be out here doing things that you're not supposed to do, because you have an expectation on your life. And so the thing that I've always done is try to protect my daughter against the world from.
Now let me deal with this. And this is all fine and Danny. I know he's painting a picture, and he have a right to paint a picture, right? And this is going to help with his side of the game. But let me say this again. He emphatically declared that he was a Christian. Now, I thought Christians supposed to believe the Bible. Am I right? Huh? If you're saying you're a Christian, you're supposed to be following the prescribed order of the Bible, okay? Even though we know Christianity is a joke. You get mad at that, so be it. All right. But as a Christian, you're supposed to be following the Bible. Now, to say that you want to keep a child in a child place, that's Babylonian talk, Babel talk. Okay. Those of us who really know the scripture, you don't supposed to keep a child in a child place. The scripture says you're supposed to train up a child in the way that they should go. If we are really following the teachings of, and I'm gonna use y'all commonality, Jesus Christ, then when a child reached the age of 12, by that time they should be fully engulfed into society. Okay? This is what happened with the saints of old in the Bible. So by the age of 12, their mentality, their mind should be fortified to the point that they are able to deal with the world. This is what went on in ancient times. Okay? And even in the ancient times in Africa, when you got the passions of rights and all that, so forth and so forth, right? Around the age of 12 and afterwards, both what we call today boys and girls, they was of age and moving like adults. That's why the scripture, again, you find it in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, says, train up a child in the way that it should go. So we stunt. I want y'all to hear me. We stunt our children's growth by giving in to this ideology. A child should stay in a child place. When by the age of 12, they should be already fit and fortified to deal with the world. Okay? And I'm not bragging and boasting. That's what I do with my kids. I sit them down and I talk to them. I teach them. I put them up on what we like to call game, so that when they out in the world, they have some type of refuge mentally. They have been galvanized with wisdom and knowledge that they're able to conduct themselves. Right? I don't tell them, listen, I want to shield you from the world. I want to protect you. No. I'm not shielding you from the world. I'm not protecting you from the world. This is what I teach my children. No, I'm preparing you for the world. I'm putting you in situations so you may know how to maneuver in the world. And I have put my children in many, many situations. And this is what I like to do, okay? And I hope this help y'all. We act out skits. Me and my children, we act out skits, multiple situations where they can find themselves in so they can be fit to handle it properly. Okay? And sometimes the other kids may not know they're in the skit, but I will have the other kids do certain things to see how they're going to react in that situation. And then if they don't react accordingly to what I have been bringing them up in the way as they should go, then I sit them down and say, this is the proper way to handle this. And then you have a redo sometimes in the future to see if this knowledge has been galvanized within them, okay? So it's very hypocritical for us to say, I'm a Christian, but yet not preparing our children according to Christianity as it relates to the Bible, because Christians are supposed to be following the Bible. And I know a lot of you going to be like, oh, I agree to keep a child. No. That's why your children end up growing up being degenerates. That's why the children end up growing up being a menace to society, because you don't sit them down early and teach them the way that they should go. You don't sit down with them early and train them. And when you go look up that word train in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, I mean, it puts you in a mindset of what boxers do when they training for a boxing match. Okay? So, listen, we got to teach our children early. Don't wait till they 17. Don't wait till they 18. No. You get a hold to them while they 7. Right? And I know a lot of you going to say I'm harsh, man. When my kids got to a certain age, 5 and 6, I say, listen, it's time out for no more toys. It's time out for all them games. This is what you're going to do. Put books in their hand. I want you to read this. Right? When they come ask me something, I'm telling them, you go research it first. They come back and tell me about it. And if it ain't right, then we'll sit down and have a discussion. Okay? How to work on cars. I want you to figure this out. Okay? My son, he listen, These brakes need to be changed. I want you to do it. And he's able to work himself, because I'm not trying to keep a child in a child place when the scripture let me know, according to antiquity ties, that children around the age of 12, they was moving as adults. And this is where we go wrong. Oh, we over here in America, times is different, where the scriptures don't change. This is the mindset we gotta have. Okay? And like I said, I'm trying, but this is what it is we just dealing with. But let's get back to the video. I know I went on a little rant, but let's go, bro.
The world. And what this has shown me is that eventually all of our children, and she is still a child because she is an underage child, all of our children eventually will have to see how ugly the world is. All of them.
Let's go back to what I'm saying. Eventually, they're going to have to see, no, you should be exposing them to the ugliness of the world. So when they do experience it, they're not taken off. They're not moved off their square. They're not destabilized, because you already done showed them and exposed them to how the world operates. Okay?
Regardless of how we feel, regardless of what happens, all of our children will have to seek, we'll have to see what the world is. What we as parents are supposed to do is protect them as long as possible, until they have to see what the world does, right? So this is what I'm gonna say. My focus right now, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get into the show. My focus right now is trying to figure out the psychological damage, impact, and trauma that has been done to my daughter.
And I don't believe that, well, let me say this. I believe he's true in what he's saying right here. I believe it. But again, that's part of his fallacy. That's part of his mishaps, because he tried to shield his daughter from the world. And I know a lot of you guys gonna get mad at this, but we in the truth over here, and we just spitting facts. Okay? He should have put his daughter in a position where she was already exposed to this, instead of trying to shield her from this. Right? And it bothers me that you only want to do this when it comes to certain situations. And I'm speaking to you so-called black people. You'll try to shield your son, you'll try to shield your daughter from a lot of things in the world and tell them to stay in a child place. But when it comes to being pulled over by a police officer, you make sure you give them knowledge on that. Okay, when we pulled over, make sure you don't do this and that. But this is the way you're supposed to be operating across all facets of life, aspects of life. See, we are very hypocritical when it comes to parents. Very hypocritical. Oh, well, I'm not gonna talk about sex with she too young. She only 11. She listen, and behind your back, she getting it in. Your daughter done been underneath multiple men because you failed to share with her the damage, the trauma, okay, and the spiritual implications that it can have, right? And why you trying to say I'm shielding her from it, she's not ready for this? No, you're messing up. And this is where a lot of parents mess up with their children. And I hate to bring in a dichotomy between so-called white people and so-called black people. For example, when dealing with protection, when I talk about protection, I'm talking about being able to stand up for yourself, being able to perhaps guard the house, perhaps guard your family. White people, so-called white people, expose their children early on to guns, early on to how to shoot a rifle, how to build a rifle, compared to so-called black people. You see what I'm saying? So you can't be walking around, I want to shield my daughter, I want to shield my son from this and that. No, you need to expose them to this. Not just in one area, but in all facets of life. Okay? And you'd be surprised, young boys at the age of 8, 9, I done seen them with my own eyes, at the age of 8, 9, and 10, able to handle a gun. I'm talking about how so-called white people train their children and how they teach their children. 11, 12 years old know how to put together a rifle, how to clean guns and all that. I'm just using this as one example because they expose their children to that. Where we over here trying to, we got to protect, we got to shield. When you should be observing all things, exposing your kids to all things. Okay? So, like I said, I believe he's true and psychological, but that goes back to what he failed to do. All right?
And
let me say this. All right? And this is alleged. This is just my personal opinion. The way he's talking, the cold words that he putting out there, I won't be surprised. I want y'all to hear me. And this just alleged. My personal opinion. I won't be surprised if he don't sue Corey. I won't be surprised.
Pulling her out of school, early therapy, making sure that she is protected, trying to see what the fallout will be as far as her having to be removed from some of her competitions because of a lot of different things, including online bullying and psychological damage. There's a lot of fallout.
Now, here is the hypocritical that I'm talking about when it comes to this guy, Anton Daniels. Now, on one hand, he would tell so-called black people, you never experienced slavery. You never experienced this. But he liked to negate the fact of the fallout, the words that he's using, the fallout of what so-called black people is dealing with. We're dealing with reality right here, okay? This is what he liked to negate. He don't deal with the systemicness or the systemic racism that occurs when it comes to so-called black people, which is the fallout that derives from slavery, Jim Crow, and sharecropping, redlining, okay, all of that. He don't want to deal with this systemic side of that. And he tell so-called black people, you are being a victim. You having a victim mentality. Okay? You don't have to deal with the psychological effect. You don't have to deal with the psychosis in your psyche. That's just an excuse. You don't have to deal with the fallout of this. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to diminish what his daughter may be experiencing and whatnot, but wasn't no hands put on her. At least he ain't saying no hands was put on her. Did nothing happen to her physically? Right? She just dealing with words. She just dealing with being, the brunt of people's jokes right now. Right? But let me tell you, so-called black people often is the brunt of people's jokes, which is dealing with the systemic side of it. Okay? And when you look at this situation, you saying your daughter in the same standpoint, just like so-called black people who dealing with the fallout of racism, dealing with the fallout of slavery, dealing with the fallout of Jim Crow, dealing with the fallout of redlining, dealing with the fallout of even corporate and a systematic racism that's still in place. Okay? This is what we fail to address when it comes to this guy, Anton Daniels. So to say, my daughter had to deal, and don't think I'm being dismissive towards what, no. I'm just pointing out a fact of the hypocritical side of him. So hopefully, this would help him to be more understanding towards so-called black people that's dealing with this, even behind the naked eye. Okay, because I know he's a Republican, he's a Christian, he's a conservative, and no, y'all not dealing with this, and y'all don't have to deal with that. No, you. But yet, so-called black people, the vast majority, I'm speaking collectively of the vast majority of the people, are still dealing with the fallout inherently the fallout of what has happened on these soils here in America. Okay? So what your daughter dealing with is no different what people by and large is dealing with in this country. So again, is he playing victim? Or is this is an eye opener? Or is this a wake up call? Let's see how he began to conduct himself afterwards. And let me say this also. Right? And this is why I teach my children, man. I constantly teach my children, listen, you're ugly. Oh, you harsh, man. What you mean you telling your kids you ugly? I'm not telling them they ugly because they're not beautiful. I got some beautiful children. But I tell them they are ugly. And they were like, when I first said it to my kids, they were like, man, what you mean, daddy? Man, what's going on? I tell them, I'm telling you this because universally, you're not beautiful to everybody. You're not everybody's cup of tea. So I have to teach you this so when somebody do call you ugly, you're not move off your square. All right? So when I said that to my kids, I was using that as a backdrop to teach them a very important lesson. And if I use one of my younger daughters that's in in elementary, she had a case where she was dealing with somebody calling her, and I asked her how that feels. She was like, what you done taught us and what you done instilled in us, it didn't bother me at all because I was already exposed to this. I'm saying exposed. That was not quite her words, but she said I was already used to this. I was already, so it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all because I know I'm beautiful. You tell me I'm beautiful, and I'm happy with how the Most High had made me. And this is what I taught them. Okay. And again, I'm going to the scriptures. And like I said, I know I got a different channel, but I have to deal with this because I'm dealing with this guy right here. According to the scriptures, I believe it's over there in Psalms 139 when they talk about you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the sight of the Most High. And this is what I drilled in my children's mind. So no matter if somebody say they ugly, somebody say they look this way, to this and that, they don't get moved or off in their feelings or have some type of psychological effect on them because I have built within them, I have trained them up to know without a shadow of doubt, I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the sight of the Most High. Huh? And they understand they're no universal beautiful person. You're going to be ugly to somebody, and that's okay. Everybody's ugly to somebody. So as a parent, when you teach your children this, they don't have to deal with the fallout of the psychological effect, right?
What happens to my daughter's life because she is so accomplished. She has some of the greatest schools in the United States of America that has been seeking her out, scholarships, looking for her to join the team. She is on track to be a United States Olympian. She was supposed to be possibly in the next Olympics. And I don't know how damaging this is to her psyche. I don't know. Who knows? This can be a lifetime of damage. We don't know what butterfly effect things that we do to our children. And the one thing that most fathers, Black fathers, try to do.
Wait a minute now. Here you go, playing on words. Playing on words. When you was questioned about, man, I try to show y'all some days, man. This guy is something else, man. And as you can see on the right side, those of you that, if you're paying attention on the right side, you see all of these chats that's going up and down when I'm playing. You see how a lot of people are delusional. Now here it is. Now you trying to identify with being black. When you was questioned about your blackness, you disregard that. You disregard it. Say, I am a Christian first. But now, this is how he playing on the emotional strings of his listener, of people that follow him, as a so-called black father. I say so-called because even though I know it's a social construct, and anybody know what a social construct is, mean the mass majority of the people socially agrees with this, even though it may not be, objective when it comes to reality and nature based on that. But it's just something people agreed to it. So even though I know my nationality is not black, I still identify with that because it's a social construct that distinguishes. And a lot of people get mad at social constructs. Is not bad in itself. It becomes bad when you use it as a method to target people according to the social construct. By watch this. White people, they are not white, but as a social construct to contrast between so-called black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Huh? So there's many social conventions, there's many social constructs that's put in place. And we understand that, right? But that does not mean when I'm questioning, am I going to disregard my people? Because I'm saying, so it's a social construct. No, I'm gonna let it be known. Listen, I'm identifying with my people. Okay, I'm identifying with my people. Yes, according to the social construct, yes, we are black. But when you look at the skin, we know we're not black. Yes, according to the social construct, we are black. But I know, according to my tribe and my nationality, I'm a descendant of Judah. All right, and I know I'm speaking on some things that people don't realize, but that's fine. At the end, I'm just saying. But I'm not identifying with you. Because, yes, I know who my true identity is. I know what my true nationality is. But that's neither here or there. But I'm letting you know I'm identifying with you. So this is what this dude, Anton Daniel, do. He only want to identify with the so-called black people when it's convenient for him. When it's convenient for him. But when it's something totally different, when he don't have to take the role of being a victim, he's not identifying with black people. But right here, I don't know if y'all caught it. He just said, we as black fathers. Now he's trying to identify with being black, pulling on the strings of people's emotions. Where black fathers gonna be like, yeah. But when people able to see past the smoke, they be like, hold up now, I understand and I, show empathy. I sympathize with what your daughter had to go through, even though it was not necessary. But wait a minute, now you're black now? Now you're black? When often on your platform, you don't want to identify being black. You want to identify with being a Christian, and that's okay. That's your prerogative. You want to identify with being a Republican. Okay, that's your prerogative. You want to identify being a conservative. Yes, that's okay. That's your prerogative. But all at the same time, while I identify with these three entities, these three elements of your life, but you don't want to identify with being black. But now, okay, when it's time to play the victim role, this is how you playing on your psyche. When it's time to play the victim role, because he believes black people is always in the victim mode. So therefore, to make it seem like I'm with y'all now, I want to identify with y'all. We as black fathers, we have to do this. And miss me with that, man. A bunch of baloney. And those of you that sleep, that's not awake, this how he continue to be, your puppet master.
Is they try to make sure that their children are protected.
You always wondered why that app didn't exist. Now you can make it. Meet Replit Agent.
That's what we do. As fathers, we don't really care what happens to us, right? Because that's just life. But we never, ever can imagine what would happen to our underage children.
And that's true. That's true. And I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Okay? See, I'm not biased. I'm just pointing out the facts. I just point out the reality. I just point out the truth. So I agree with that. But I do notice something here. He keep painting that picture of underage children. I wonder how old is his daughter. I'm wondering how old is his daughter, because he keep going out there underage children.
No matter what happens to us, we don't want anything. For those of us that are in our daughters' lives, we don't want anything to happen to our children. Under no circumstance. And so I don't know. I think that a lot of people don't really understand the impact. And I'm speaking to all of us, for all of us. We don't always know what the impact is to our children. We don't know the psychological damage, the emotional damage, the wreck that happens in their lives when other people go after children. I thought that children was off limits.
Again, the point out, and I'm pointing out a few things there. Again, the point out is so-called black people, you don't understand what they're dealing with because you made it to a certain level of success, right? And most of the time, I know a lot of you guys gonna get mad at me, to make it to a certain level of success in this empire, you have to turn your back on a lot of things, especially your people. You have to go along to get along in order to reach that maximum level of success in this society. Okay? That's just the reality of the matter is, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, right? But at the same time, if people would be real, right? If this society would be real, this society, I have to say that so-called black people is still dealing, as you talk about your daughter, with the psychological, with the internal things that they have inherited from many, many, many years of this system oppression. And so for him to try to erase that, eradicate it, and try to ostracize himself from that reality, now it seems like it done came back home. And I hope this is a humbling lesson for all of us to take, okay? Because what his daughter is dealing with, according to what he's saying, black people by and large is dealing with this till this day. And no matter how many therapy sessions you go to, it sometimes take years, sometimes decades to untrauma the trauma that has been passed down through generations within this society. Okay? So for him to say, oh, black people, you ain't never been through what people yesterday, but you're dealing with the residual effect. You're still dealing with the system that's put in place. You're still dealing with the systemic racism that's put in place, where they systematically do it, whether they doing it knowingly or unknowingly, because it's inherently within people. It's inherently within people. And what people don't fail to realize, if you have medical people that saying that people, listen, man, oh my goodness, I should have to go this deep. If you got people in the medical world saying that some things in people is passed down through their bloodline, and you even have people coming out saying trauma is passed down through people's bloodline. Whoredom is passed down through people's bloodline. If you got people that's coming out and saying that, you don't think, because so-called black people was not in physical slavery, you don't think they not inherently dealing with it in their psychosis, psychologically? Huh? If you think that, then you're delusional, okay? You're delusional. And I'm not here to, talk about this in this aspect, but I'm just using this as truth. I'm using this as a way to point out to you the hypocrisy of this guy right here, Anton Daniels. Anton Daniels. Okay? And another thing, and I probably should have done after this. I'm not talk too long. Another thing, when we say kids is off limits, there used to be a time where kids was off limits. Yes, there used to be a time when wives was off limits. Yes, but we are not living in those times no more. We're not living in those times no more. Okay? Do it make it right? No. But let's point out the hypocrisy again, where people fail to realize he was just on his Victory Tour talking about, listen, you can't tell me how I can respond. When you go, I'm gonna match your energy. And when you do this, I'm gonna go lower. Well, don't be a hypocrite. Corey Holcomb went lower. He went lower. You had all these people saying, you can't tell Anton Daines how to respond. He got a right to respond the way he want to respond. But you got to be fair down the line. Corey Holcomb got a way to respond the way he respond. So that's very hypocritical. Here go another hypocritical day right here. You said right out your mouth on Corey Holcomb 5150 show platform that you study him. You said you watch him. You said you know him. That's why you was able to push this button with that sucking the, you know what? So you say you study him. Well, it don't seem like you study him. Because if you study him, you'll know that Corey Holcomb go low like this. If you truly study him. So to come on here and act like you been victimized and try to play on the strings of people's heart, listen, I ain't buying it. Because out of your own mouth, by virtue of your own words and your statement, you study Corey Holcomb. So you knew he'll go low like this because in the past he had, none of that. You're dealing with a comedian. This is what comedians do. Listen, I've been around many comedians, okay? Many, right? And I'm around comedians on a consistent basis. Comedians don't have nothing that's off limits. That's what they do. And you talking about Corey Holcomb, who is a comedian. Listen, you can't expect nothing else. Nothing else. So if you study him, if you knew who he was, if you paid attention to him, you know this was, but again, when you try to set the play, and all of this is alleged, when you try to set the play for suing somebody, this could be the case. This could be the case. So for all people saying, Corey Holcomb went low, listen, logically speaking, man to man, yes, it's wrong to bring kids into place. It's wrong. Yes, it is. But you're dealing with a comedian, and comedians bring everybody in place. Even when you go back to school and when you was in elementary and middle school and whatnot, and you crack jokes, when people crack jokes, nothing off limits. It was the people who was emotional who got in the fit. Okay? When they, your mama, you go to talk about your mama this and that. They're cracking jokes. They nothing's off limits when it comes to comedians. This is what you fail to realize. Okay? So this is what it is. This is what it is. So he didn't quite possibly study Corey Holcomb. But, you know, I just had to come on here and talk about it, man. I might finish watching this. I might not. Somebody sent it to me, and I said I'll talk a little bit about it. But to the next video, peace.